Oh, okay. Yeah, fewer people are joining, so that's good. Okay. Let's see. So yes, so I wanted to talk about, I guess, in my attempt to evangelize the acceptance test, I wanted to cover how you can go ahead and write a test in this. The general info about this will be available. Actually, maybe I should make the display smaller. Is this still legible for people? Or maybe it's not in the recording, so maybe let me make my display smaller here. Let's see, maybe this should be small enough. Yes. Okay. Did it adjust to my change? Let me reshare the screen again. Yeah. Okay. So yes, so that looks good. So yes, yeah. So I wanted to show how to write a test in this. So you need, okay. So the first you need some like a Maven and Java ID setup and kind of basics. So that here, not. So let's see. So I wanted to write some test case. So which test should I write? So the one good page to look at when you decide what test to write, unless you have, maybe you already have some ideas about what you want to write. But otherwise, let's just look at the statistics to see which guys are worth testing. So we have installation popularity ranking of all the plugins. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at some of these plugins to see which one would work. Still, so SSH slaves, Maven plugin. Okay, these guys all look test has been written. Okay, so metric source. All right, so this. I think this will be nice and simple. It's in the core. So there's a plugin called my core plugin. So this plugin used to be in the core. This is the one that's using this, I guess, one of the access control stuff. So let's write a test for that. So I have this project open inside the inside IDE. So what I'm going to do is inside the test directory, source test Java plugins. I'm going to create matrix OS. So you write these tests in the regular JUnit format. So for the convenience, I'm going to, there's a, most of these test cases derive from abstract JUnit test. So that defines a few convenience class. Nothing particularly exotic here. If you don't like extending from these things, you can just add your own rules. So this is the one that basically does the bulk of the rule setup. So and then I'm injecting a couple of other things, but we'll get there. So the minimal thing would be, I think something want to return type. And then in this test, we want to test the matrix also. Use this annotation that basically instructs the test harness that you want the plugins sufficient to run the test. So I'm gonna just debug execute this guy, and then have the breakpoint set in the line. Why? No, do I have anything running? Oh, no. Okay, so now the newer one is starting. So in the default mode, unless otherwise configured, the Jenkins should be launched in the Java-jar Jenkins war mode, which is like one of the simplest ways you can run it. And so it's going to, what is it doing here? Maybe you could see what it is. Well, it doesn't seem like it's launching it. Maybe, okay, so here it comes. Oh, I see. Yeah, I was experimenting with some other stuff, so let me actually remove this setup. Um, I was trying to launch it into another display, which doesn't exist yet. Um, so the actually, while we are waiting for the Jenkins to come up, so this every test case wants to. All right, so here's the Selenium instance coming up, and I don't. So you can, if you can hear my CPU fan, you'll hear that it had suddenly kicked into high mode. It's basically starting the new Jenkins instance now, and when it comes online, I think you see that we're using Selenium to do some stuff, and then here. So that's sort of like so the general mode of this acceptance test is like you use Selenium to operate on stuff. So in the base class, we have this Jenkins page object injected. And then so this guy is how you interact with it. So for example, so the good trick to do it is, since it kind of takes time to start it, as you saw, the good tricks that I use is I use the debugger expression evaluation to do stuff. So if I do, so notice that right now I'm at the about page. So if I do Jenkins.open, it goes to the top page. Maybe I can show this side by side so that you can see it a little better if my screen real estate would permit. Or I could say Jenkins.job, like the Jenkins is creating a new job, and then it's in the configuration page. So now you could say, well, saved it. So that's how you go about this. So it's yeah. So now if I let this run to the completion, the test has passed, but that doesn't have any assertion, so it's not particularly interesting. So when you get into this test development mode, the one thing you should be using is JUT server application. So this runs, so this is a part of the built-in, the part of the source tree. So if you run it, what this does is this acts as a cache of Jenkins instances that used for the test. So you start it and you basically keep it running behind the scene, and this process will always have one Jenkins instance up and running, ready to roll. So now that it's up, if I execute this test again in the debugger, hopefully you'll see that this time it comes in a lot more quickly, because they didn't have to start the Jenkins instance from scratch. It's just handing over the one that's there. So now you're here within like 5 to 10 seconds max. So it's a lot more productive when it comes to doing testing. Okay, so I
should add that you need to have more RAM than you would otherwise if you want to run that server.
Yeah. See, now you know why I used to. So this this is all my ploy as the former Sun Microsystems engineer to sell you more hardware. So yes, the test. I guess when you write test, I find it useful to think about like what you want to test. So I guess the scenario that you want to automate. So let's say in this case, maybe what we're gonna do is like we go to the we set up the global configuration, and then I guess enable the metrics-based security, perhaps like set some stuff. And maybe we try to create, yeah, so let's do that. So I guess we can create 2 users, and then, set the different permissions and make sure, he can do the right thing. One can do the right thing while the other can't, and stuff like that. So I think that would be useful. So actually for that, I think I need another plugin. So I need to be able to log in as random users. So to test that, I want to use to be already it's very useful for testing, and then there's already some page object for that. So let's install that and then come back. Okay, so I'm debugging this again. So the second instance would be, now it's, I think it's installing another plugin, so it might take a little bit longer than before. Okay, I guess it's, all right, so it's both are installed. So I think let's aim for the first
So if
thing.
you added with plugins and that plugin isn't installed by default, is it going to use Selenium to go and check the update center and try to install it?
So that's actually pluggable. So that logic happens in here. By default, it's sort of upload. So it actually, what it does is it does the equivalent of going to the advanced page and use this upload plugin feature to feed the plugin into Jenkins. You could also have the, so the reason this is faster is because the harness would use Maven to resolve the plugin artifacts locally. So at least it wouldn't have to download the plugin every single time. If you, but as a test runner, you can control this setting. So if you turn it to false, it would do what's equivalent of like going through the usual plugin update center. And that involves like your test Jenkins under test downloading plugins from the community update center. So it's going to be a lot slower. So for test development time, I think this is almost always what you want to do. So here, so let's say the first step I wanted to do is to set up some mock security settings. So I guess what we want to do, so I'm trying to manually do what, the script will later do. So we're gonna come to this page and then check that guy, set the mock security realm, and then set this to something like this. Yeah. So let's go for that. So so first we're gonna go to global, I guess this config page. So all these like, trivial pages, like config page, have their corresponding page objects. So these are all defined inside the PO package. There are like a ton of those. In some of these places, I think we generally try to provide navigability by like so that you could type dot and look for the page, and I think you have it there. So let's try that in the. So I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. So you saw that it moved. So I think I'm doing the right thing. And I want to save it. And in between, I have to do some stuff here. So the first is, so if you look at this code, you see that there are like two. So yeah, so first, I guess I need to do sc.use real. And so the way this works is, what I'm trying to do now is, actually maybe I need to enable, does it enable, yeah, okay. To take is the subtype of the security realm. So you know that depending on which ones of these you click, you get different controls, right? So this subsection has their corresponding page objects, like a micro page object that only binds to this section. So we call those page area. So that's what we are trying to do. So there's a subtype of page area called security realm, and there's a few implementation of those already available. Then fortunately, the mock security realm is one of those. So what this is going to do is this will make Selenium check this checkbox, and then so now I need to enter something in here. So the way it works in this guy, you have to type in the mock username that you're creating, and then if not very obvious, but needs, yeah, all right, so here, okay, so I guess this is the guy that needs to be called. So ms configure Alice, and I guess so it's an array, so it may be something like that. So you want to test that. Now, so the new addition is so unfortunately something like this is a bit tricky to test in the debugger expression window because you want to have variables and multiple objects moving around. So for that, I I know every time for that I added something new. So gauge, and I know every time a little bit of Jesse dies when I mention Groovy. But so what this does is if I console execute this here. Oh, let's make sure that we accept exception. It basically breaks and into the goes into a debugger. So I mean the Groovy script console. So let's see. Well, actually, let's just start from here. So I'm going to let the debug this test case die, and then let's have it come back to here. So now it's starting up the another test run, and if you we should see the Selenium pop up and at least get to the point of configuring the security realm. So so you see that the much of this is really just it's a bit like exploration driven, because it's kind of you have to sort of like experiment, play with various things, calling various things a lot. So often I find it useful to have this interactive environment. So when you do this guy, it will start the Groovy console that has access to all these variables. So far so good. So we have this like a thing set. So next I want to set this guy down here, right? So so now what we are trying to do is the use authorization strategy. In this case, I already have the subtype for this guy, so I'm going to. This is what we want to do. Try that out. So what I can do is I just like copy the whole thing over in here, and then I guess I need to create the page object, and I want to do this here, and then you could evaluate that. All right, compilation error. Oh, I guess I didn't like the AES, so let's script run. So you see that it did the right thing. So okay, so now we know that this expression so far is so good. So now what we want to do next is we want to add two users, right? The Alice and Bob here. So for that, I guess this guy, add user. We could test it here. Yeah, so now it added Alice. Oh, I should have saved it in the variable. So maybe like Bob would be. So let's add Bob. So now let's see. That didn't work. Oh, I guess I see. I didn't save that variable, so I have to have a few more expression copied back and forth. Yes, and SC is missing too. All right, what else now? Okay, what input? This is not as smooth as it should be. So generally, well, I guess you see there's sort of like a struggle of like how this. All right, so that it now added the new user Bob. So now I think we could wipe this out and see what it does. Let me clear the output. Yeah, so now I capture that variable here, so I could do. So yeah, so you get another page area that represents this single row. So here I want to make the Alice an administrator. So I guess to check that guy, I use the on method. Oops. So Alice would be administrator. Bob would be, I guess, what permission should he get? I guess lead any jobs. So we could test that by.
It looked like there were methods for admin and read.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, admin would be to do better. Yes. I don't want to give him item reads. So. And then we can again test that expression here. So now it's kind of checked that. So far so good. And then in the end, I guess we just need to save that guy. So I hope SC is still in scope. No. Well, maybe I can do it from here. So I'm combining all sorts of ways to evaluate expressions. Right. So now it's not saving there. Not sure what happened. Oh, I see. Because it's running. It's still running this guy. So let me well, let me just terminate that. So once you're done, I guess it does move on. Yeah. So now it's saved. So that's good. So let's make sure that this runs at least to this point. Maybe I'll set the. So I'm starting another test run. It should finish configuring everything if this works correctly. And then it should break. I don't need that. Okay, so yeah, it might be going too fast for the screen to update, but it's generally doing the right thing for me. All right, so now so now that's good. So that was good. So now let's say I want to log in as Alice and then maybe create like a couple of jobs. Well, I guess the one would do. So what am I going to do here? Jenkins. First, I need to log in. Login. Do login. Okay. And then I should be able to create new. That. So if I let it run, I should have the Groovy script pop up so I can evaluate these expressions. So far side Alice. Yeah, so now I'm logged in. And then I'm gonna just create a new job. Oh. Okay, I guess it doesn't like the import, but so you created a new job. Okay, so I shouldn't be. So the trick is I shouldn't be doing def to make this script remember. So I just created a new job, and then yeah, so it's still looking at the right job. So at this point, I think if I just save this job, and then I think if I come back to logging as Bob, then I shouldn't see anything. Right, so let's try that. So I save the job, and then logging as Bob. Then yes, so now finally I get to assert some things, and then I should be able to assert that there's no link to this job. So there's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to just do assert not null. I'm trying to get the element, grab the element by selector. So in this case, I'm looking for a link that's named the name of the job, and that shouldn't exist. So you could test again.
Wouldn't it be good to try this without the login to Bob first to make sure that it
yes, thank
does
you.
find
Control. Yes, that's the one of the thing that I learned from you. is that there should be a control. Except it's not. Did it evaluate? Oh, the result was no. Okay, so I think this should be no. Yes, so that's good. So this should pass. I guess so the point that Jesse is making is, yes, assertions like that should have a control, which is correct. So let's do that. So in this case, so no, this is no. This shouldn't be a link. If we so that's it, right? So let's try that. So if I evaluate logging as Alice, and then if I that didn't work. Assertion error. Why is that? So what's changed? So that looks good to me. Result was no. So just before I guess digging deeper, so lots of times like for you to do assertions, you need to like find some element in the page. So there's also for that we use this like for that we use this thing called by instance. So this comes from Selenium. It's like an encapsulation of how you find an element. So if you do by dot, you see all sorts of different ways to get them. So like a common ones are like, you can look for the input row, you can look for the button by name, you can look for the hyperlink, which is what I was trying to do. I see, except it doesn't look for the text here, does it? So I need to be a bit more clever. Well, this should do. I wonder why it's not.
By.href is maybe.
Yeah, let's try now. Is that by href? By. No, that was no too.
Do you have to pass in the full href, or does it accept a
Yeah,
subset?
but I just want to make sure that this link exists. So well, let's try like. So what is this? So or maybe we first try that guy to follow your advice. By find it. All right, so that found something, or you could do find. I think it would be the same thing. Maybe it contains a lot more structure than just the link. Yeah, so this like inspector view is your friend. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's too clever. What is that? WVR?
The joy of Selenium. Yes, it's putting in a word break between the two long portions of the name because it's so long. And of course, since these names are generated automatically, this means that your test might work perfectly fine as long as the random name happens to be short enough and then start breaking the first time.
Yeah, so that's probably why we couldn't find this element by their name. So that's a bit of a bummer. But I guess to save my day, what I'm going to do is instead of looking for a link, actually, to save my day, I'm just going to do that href check. It's not ideal, but I think it would work, and I can still talk about other things. There's one more. So that should. Oh, that didn't work either, though. Why is that? by href, right? Okay, so that was the. So this should work.
Seems like it would be useful to have a variant of href that would take a substring rather than an exact match.
Yeah. Variant. Next one. So I'm gonna close this window and let the test complete, and then come back here for one more round. Interact. So what I wanted to is, so assuming that this works, now let's first verify that it will work. So assuming that worked, what I wanted to do next was to start writing page objects, because so far I have managed to do this without writing any page objects whatsoever. But in most likely situations, you do have to write a few page objects to be able to test your situation at hand. So it's great. Okay, let's just first make sure it's doing stuff. Test involved, and okay, so that's good. All the assumptions passed thus far. So next, I think, so let's have this test case like declare the success. Um, so this scenario, leakage. This is a horrible name, but I'll fix it later. So the next step, interesting, would be to use the So the idea is we wanted to use this guy, and then set the same thing up, and then the Alice would go into the project, and then grant access to Bob, and then now we can have Bob see it. So so we start by copying the whole thing. Actually, let me before I get writing. So the next test case is so here first I need a new page for this matrix authorization strategy. This guy this guy was for this, so we want to do it for that. So so for to create a new page area, so let's just put them into the same place as this guy. It's in the plugins matrix OS. So I'm And then, so the UI of these things is mostly identical. In fact, I think almost it's actually completely identical. So I could just extend from the other one, I think. Why is it? Oh, it wants a constant. Just like do a pass structure. Associate this with is here. So I'm going to just copy the string into here. I think I'm basically done. So I create that new instance, and then it should get to here all right. Actually, let's point here so that I can step execute that. So I'm going to run this guy. What? Why is that doing it? Oh, I guess, I see. I didn't. Fine. Let me kill. Die. Let me just kill them all and then restart from scratch.
Wait, do you recommend using the English display label for the control or the internal name?
Yeah, so yes, so in some other places, what Jesse is referring in some other, if you look at the usage of this station, in some other places well, I guess it looks like in most, so we this the internal like ID name, and where um, where we want to use this internal name, but unfortunately, like in this case of well, let's once it comes up, I can show you. Why is it failing now? Oh, the display program. Actually, since I'm talking about the display name, what I should do is I find it kind of annoying that during the test the browser pop up and then it steals my focus. So what I find useful is to do this the create the virtual X display. It creates a new XBNC so I could access. Um, so that's my like secondary VNC window, and then so now I can have all my browsers go into there. So let me do it again. If you're watching it, like, you see that the browser happens inside this VNC window, so like it doesn't steal my focus.
And how did you set the display during the test to that?
So in my ID, I can set the environment variable during the test. So I just have it the -1. And I kept hitting it because I set this in this project. I set it as a default for JUnit test. So every new test case automatically gets that. All right, so now I think this code should be probably safe, but let's be cautious here. So I'm step execute that like a no such element exception. Why is that? I see. I think this is why I have a space. So this actually failed. Let me show you how it fails, which is useful. So the Selenium tends to produce like a kind of very hairy error message, but ultimately what it's saying is like if you just scroll all the way up to the top and then look at the first message, it will show you. So it's failing to find the caption. So if you look at the code, what it's doing is it's trying to find, it's trying to look at the name of the describable. So you look at the value of the describable and then try to find the element that has, like, trying to find a radio button that has that caption. So my failing, I think, is I got the white space at the end. So if I try this, let's try this again. Hopefully this time it will work. All right, so let's go see this. Okay, so now it's connecting and doing the work. Should go to the system config screen and set the breakpoint. Yes. So now this expression evaluates to yes, so that's working. So if I step execute them, so it set that. Yes, so it's got the right thing set, and then it should try to add the new user. Again, that's cautious here because having one failure means just losing the whole thing. So if I add that, yeah, okay, so that works. So I think this should work all fine. Yeah, so that's good. So now we're going to create the job as Alice. And then, yes, I want to log in as Alice. So let's step execute that part. Now it's logging in as Alice. Yeah, so now it's Alice, and then now it's trying to create a new job. And it's in the config page. So here's where we want to start doing most. What we want to do is to basically click that enable project-based security, and then add Bob here, like add the Bob, and then grant this job read permission. That's what I'm trying to do. So so that needs more page objects created. Let me clean up the configuration page. I want to just read them, right? So so now how do I create the page object? So this guy is project-based security. So we need job property, project-based. I forgot. Project metrics property. Find the right name. I guess we try the same name as the internal Jenkins code, but code base you can't name them properly. So that's fine. Just name them whatever. And then so this is the page area. To bind to this subsection. So if you look at some of the page area implementation, I think you should. I'm kind of surprised that we don't seem to have any. So I guess it's so we want to create the binding. So we want to create binding for this input control so that we could interact with those. So that the trick to do it is you inspect the element. If you inspect that control, this is too small. So let me do this in another browser. I see. Yeah, so this is one pane that I can cut and paste between this guy 50105. 50105. So login to Alice. And then if you go to its config page, we want to interact with this control. So if you inspect its variable, you see that it might be hard to see, but you see that it's got this pass. So that's what we use to identify the element in question. So we want to copy that value and then just create this. There. So so the control is this shows up everywhere. The one that here you see this control. So these are all like bounded. So these are used to interact with them. So here, what we want to do. So going back to the test case, what we want to do is you want to create a new project-based project matrix. Then actually, so we don't need. So in this case, it actually doesn't make sense to take these parameters. Let's just delete. Yep, I think this should do. So the reason it takes this like a secondary parameter that I just deleted in here is because sometimes these things can show up pretty deep down in the tree. So you have a lot of prefix in the past, but in this case, it looks like it's pretty close to the top. So I'm just going to do that. And so create a new property. Check that. Enable would be the better name. Oh, come on. Don't. Oh, that's a disaster. All right, so if we enable that, what happens? It produces this matrix. So, we already have the binding for metrics. So I think we should be able to cut and paste some stuff. So next, what we want to interact with would be here. I think this is a control that we want to type stuff in. If you see it, that's the property, blah, 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 whatever. So that's the name. Oh yeah, so you see that these, like, they share the same prefix of the name. So what we want, yeah, so it's almost identical. So what I think we're gonna do, so and then this I actually don't think. And then we're gonna interact with this add button. Okay, so I'm just, this is a bit tricky. I wonder why it does that. Oh, because I guess it doesn't have a pass, so maybe let's look at that. Let's quickly check. Yeah, it doesn't have a pass, so I guess we have to identify it in different ways, but that seems. So there should be enough page object in this existing framework that you should be able to find something that you can cut and paste from. So I'm going to set the name to something and then find the add button and click it and then get it. Okay, so let's try adding like both. So we want to now next interact with this row, table row. So if you look at this variable here, yeah, so you see it's got its own path, right? So here, so that's what we are then. So that path is this, and then you see that it's got the, this path reflects a tree structure. So the rest of it is the use project security. So I think we need to change this to, then it should be happy. This row. And then, so we are passing in the sort of path that this belongs to. So everything else inside, we should be able to just reuse the same matrix row. So we should be able to use that. So check the name. So now we're going to add the user. So we're going to add, that should be, I guess, like admin access. Doesn't make sense. No, it's not admin. What do we want to make him? We want to give him the read access, let's say. So
I think admin would fail in this case anyway because it's hiding those permissions from the view.
So passing the item.read. So that should work. Why?
I think overall read will also fail.
Yeah, so I think it needs to be item read. So this is it. So yeah, so that if you look at that control, you see that it's text. Its name is this. That's the model item read. I think that's what this is. Yeah, so that's the one we want to do. Okay, just add static imports. So I'm going to make that visible and then I save. I think that's good enough. Next step. So move that breakpoint over. Just throw in the Groovy console measure. And I think that should do. So if we just let this test case stops. Yeah, if you just let that test case stops and then start from all over. By the way, feel free to, like, if there are any questions, let me know. So now it's 5. Okay, so let's watch that. So it's doing stuff. Adding, logging as Alice, creating project, and then yeah, set the permission. Yes, so it all worked fine, I think. Let's double check that. Yeah, so it got the right permission and all. So at this point, if we log in as Bob, we could test that. Then we should be able to copy the same assertion. Control. What we should do is just create the job. Do that, adding from here. We're gonna log in as Bob, and then assert, and then I think you need to go to this work. And
by the way, have you ever tried using JRebel or something like that to test changes to the page objects and page areas while you're in the middle of the test?
Yeah, that would be that would be nice, isn't it? I haven't tried JRebel with this harness. I don't know. It's also unclear. I think the part of the challenge in here is like when you're in the method and you're editing that same method. So I don't know if the JRebel would work very well. But if somebody tries it and figure that out, let us know. We are supposed to get like a free open source license for test cases in OSS Jenkins. So I think we do have a license. So you just need to have someone. Well, I thought I got this work, but I guess it didn't. And then this is why I should set the breakpoint on this find there. So where did it fail? It's trying to check that, and that fails. That's odd. Oh, because there's no config page. I need to log in as that. Okay. Anyway, so that's, I think, is if this passes, this is sort of like, I guess, the typical workflow for me, at least, to write the test in this. There's a lot more advanced stuff in here, but I think it's hopefully good enough for the basic coverage. Yeah. So any questions? Anything people might wanna add? All right, so let's check here. So it actually didn't seem to go to the configuration page, does it? So that's I see, because I see this is the typical problem. Like if you have this expression, it gets it. So so go back to logging as Alice, and then I want to go to the configuration page. Now I think I can run the rest of the steps. Yes. Okay, so that was the successful test. Second test case. Yeah, so that's all. I think that's what I was mainly wanted to show. Anything else anyone wants to ask, want to add? What this is for? Do you feel like you can start writing tests? All right. Well, so that's okay. Well, if there's nothing else to answer, I think that there's lots of chat. I don't know what that's about. Okay, I guess that's basically just a question. All right, so that's.
So I have a question. Maybe I missed the first part of this, and so I'll just take up people's time with stuff they've already heard. But my question is, this is running just a plain Jenkins instance locally. It's not running in a Docker container, or did I miss that part?
So yes, I actually I didn't touch about how. I meant this to be about how to write the test. So maybe I should do another office hours to talk about that. But so your observation is correct that while I was developing test, I was essentially doing the equivalent of Java-jar Jenkins war. So no Docker, no isolation. It was just running as me on this computer. But as a person who ran the test, they can change those. So so let's say where do we describe those? I hope we do. Yeah, so like you could, for example, change how you launch the Jenkins instance under the test. So we call those controller. So for example, if you wanted to run this in the Docker, you could set the different launcher. And in this test, I don't think so this test would work equally well. You could even run this with the Jenkins running on Tomcat and so on and so forth. So there's quite a bit of the configurability as when it comes to how you actually run the tests. With different versions of Jenkins, in the presence of other plugins, stuff like that. So we didn't cover it at all. Yeah, maybe a topic for the next office hours. All right. Anything else?
So by running it like Java-jar Jenkins var, do you pollute your sort of your local instance whenever you write your test wrong, or is it cleared in between, or?
So these instances all run with its own Jenkins home in the temp directory that gets wiped out and on the random port. So even if you have your instance running locally, it wouldn't pollute anything.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no further questions, then I think that's it for today. I'll be curious to see how this recording would work or not. So, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate that. All right, I guess I'll see you in the next office hours. Bye-bye.